Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday. I hope your week has been going really well and you're gearing up for the weekend this weekend. It should be a really beautiful weekend. Yesterday we talked about being grateful. So, this week is all about gratitude as your first step of recovery. Yesterday I talked about family. That came out to be the most popular um, aspect of people's lives that to which they were grateful for. So today I wanted to discuss kind of a bigger issue regarding gratitude. There was a really famous quote that I really love that talks about anxiety and depression and basically goes, depression is when you live in the past, anxiety is when you live in the future, and happiness is when you live in the present. So that usually refers to mindfulness, so living in the moment. But another thing that I've encountered today actually is the very common mind trap. When you're going through anxiety, depression, a lot of the time we tend to compare who we used to be before our illness to who we are now. And we compare the abilities that we had before we got sick to how we're feeling now in the present. And there's a lot of issues that come with that. First of all, the person that we used to be no longer exists. The fact that we're trying to be someone who had no illness versus someone who is going through an illness is really just a setup for disappointment and failure. And a lot of the time that failure is very ruminating. We tend to ruminate on that failure. And all it does is actually deplete our motivation to take the steps we need to create a life that we can actually be happy with. So it makes perfect sense that there are a lot of things that we may not be happy about in our lives. When you're going through anxiety and depression, it's very hard to stay motivated and do the things that you need to do towards your goals and towards a future that you can be happy and proud of. But the biggest part is to really understand where you're at. So that takes a lot of self-awareness. It's very important to check in with yourself. I know that with my group and my community, we check in with ourselves on a weekly basis. We talk about how we're feeling physically, emotionally, and mentally on a weekly basis. It's very important to be aware of your current state, just so that in case your emotions intensify, you keep yourself within a healthy range of emotion, and that's extremely important. So self-awareness is definitely the first step. Second step is really understanding your limits, right? So if you used to be an athlete, if an athlete, for example, gets an injury, no one's really going to expect them to perform in the way that they did prior to the injury. And it may take them a lot longer to get back to their performance. They may not even get to the level of performance that they did prior to the injury. And that's the same thing with mental illness as well. When you're going through a mental illness, it's just like a mental, emotional injury that needs to be taken care of. And comparing ourselves to who we used to be only puts salt on the wound and makes us more and more disappointed, along with setting us up for failure. So one way to combat that is through a series of steps. So if you feel like you used to go for a walk or a run, and now in your depressed state or anxious state, you can only go 1 kilometer versus before when you could have gone 5 kilometers, your goal should not be that you need to run 5 kilometers. That's an unrealistic goal, and it doesn't respect your current capabilities. I always say that it's much healthier to hold yourself to a standard against who you are now and what your capabilities are now. Not what you used to be, but rather what you are now and where you're at right now. And again, that comes a lot with self-awareness. So if you can only run for 1 kilometer, run that 1 kilometer today. And tomorrow, aim to run maybe 1.5 kilometers. Let yourself improve in an incremental basis. And not only will that get you closer to your goal, but it'll also increase your confidence. And when you have increased confidence, your capabilities also expand and your probability of achieving your goals are a lot more likely. It's a lot healthier as well. So be kind to yourself. An injury is an injury, much like an illness is an illness, and it really takes a toll on who we are and what we're capable of. So give yourself that self-compassion, and really make sure that you're being realistic with your goals, and being realistic with what you're capable of. There's no shame in taking things slowly and incrementally. In Mindstone, we talk about the climb. It's always about taking small steps on a daily basis. And those small steps, like I said, increase your confidence. So the more you go through those steps and you push yourself to achieve standards that are related to how you're doing now and your capabilities now, the more you're likely to stick to achieving a goal on a daily basis. And doing a little every day gets you closer to your goal. In fact, a lot of people have said before that success is actually the accumulative result of small steps taken daily. And we'll talk about daily action in one of the more final stages of recovery. So big takeaways from this class today is self-awareness. So be very realistic and aware of where you're at now in your illness and in your recovery. So be really aware of your capabilities and do not hold any shame for it. You did not control your illness. It's not your fault that you're ill. And just be very mindful of where you're at now. And then once you have an idea of where you would like to be, make sure that you have small steps that you can take daily that relate to your current state of being. So always taking those small steps and trying to improve just a little bit every day. And that will, like I said, make your confidence a lot better. It'll give you a sense of purpose. It'll give you a sense of achievement without depleting you of all your resources, time, and energy, and self-esteem as well. So combination of self-awareness, self-compassion, so making sure that we're compassionate of ourselves. If we do not reach our goals tomorrow, there's always the day after. We have to learn to forgive ourselves so that we can continue being motivated and continue to be kind to ourselves so that we can face another day and put in the daily action we need to get closer to our goals. So self-awareness, self-compassion, and daily action. And that will not only increase our confidence, it'll also boost our self-esteem. And not only that, but small steps taken daily gets us closer and closer to our goals and a lot closer to a future that we can be proud of while enjoying our present state of being and state of life. So I hope that was really informative for you. Once again, let me know what you're grateful for. This week is all about gratitude, which is the #1 step for recovery. Next week, we'll be working on mindfulness, which talks a little bit more about living in the moment, which is key to our happiness as well. It's all about living in the present, which is a common theme. So thanks so much for tuning in. I hope that you carry out your week in gratitude and that you're looking forward to the weekend and you're staying motivated to achieve your goals. So that's it for today's Mindstone. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you at our next Mindstone. All the best.